Hello everyone, my name is Mark Kelly. I am your wonderful host for the Northland Artists Conversation. It's lovely to have you join us. If you are a returning viewer or listener, thank you. We love to see you. And if you're new, thanks for stopping by. We're the little podcast that could. We talk about the great and wonderful, amazing, talented people that we have in Northland that are creative. So that's what we do. That's who we are. Let's talk about what's going on. It's you know what? I realised today that we're very, very close to our 1 year anniversary. So by the time this podcast comes out, it'll be very, very close to the 1 year anniversary of the Northland Artists Conversation. I say 1 year, it's when we had our first one go live, which was with Aki Fukuoka years ago. Hard to believe it's been a year. Editor Rocky, can you believe it? A year. He's like, yes, there are days where it feels like it's been a year. But, we've had so many guests in the chair, so many wonderful people that we've had sit down and just talk with us and share their journey, what they do. And we've all learnt so much as well. So for everyone that's been involved for a year, thank you so much. We really appreciate you coming on. If you'd like to come back and visit us, if you've got something else new that's kind of cool and exciting, we would love to have you. So just you know how to get in touch with us. I'm gonna do something a little bit different. Get in touch with us. Hello at northlandartistsconversation.co.nz. Yeah, whoever edits this one's got to put that email in there as well. Good times. I'm going to switch to my camera now. Today's guest is Geoff Bartlett, and Geoff was kind of someone that came to us in a very unusual way. He is currently, by the time this podcast goes out, his first ever stage play, the Illiterate Book Club, will be out and running, and you can get tickets from Octagon Theatre. Go online, octagontheatre.nz. I think. But he was in touch with Catherine Tasker, and Catherine was involved with the podcast very early on. She helped do all of the social media and helped us find its voice, and she said to Geoff, get in touch with this guy, being us, and you'd be a wonderful guest. So he reached out late last week, and it was sort of like, yep, we'd love to have you on, that would be great, thanks for reaching out. And it was just like, boom, made it happen. And he was super cool, and he's in the final stages now of wrapping up the technical rehearsals and dress rehearsals for the official launch. So that is the first week of June, and we're sort of filming this the last week of May. So there you go. We film in advance. So Geoff, thank you very much for coming on. And what is a very cool podcast, because he started off as an actor and then sort of slowly transitioned across to become a writer. But I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to let him talk to you all about it, because it is actually really, really interesting. And how he made that switch for me was just so out of nowhere, but completely makes sense. So I tell you what, let's sit down and have a conversation with Geoff Bartlett. Anywho, I digress. Geoff Bartlett.
Hello.
Welcome to the Northland Artists Conversation. Thank you very much for turning up. It's very, very interesting you being here, and we'll explain a little bit more later on as to why it's interesting, because you are an incredibly busy man right now for very cool reasons too. Okay. So obviously I want to thank you for coming on and taking some time out. Obviously after this you're going to rush away to wherever you need to be. So we're going to make this snappy.
Works for me.
And interesting. Very cool, very cool. Now you are what would you say that your creative outlet is?
I typically call myself a gun for hire. So usually in a creative process there's somebody who's missing, and you just pick up as many skill sets as you possibly can along the way and say, yeah, I can do that.
Right.
So producing, acting, directing, writing, sometimes a combination of both. I've mostly worked in non-profit organisations.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because they're oftentimes doing absolutely everything on the smell of an oily rag. And
Yes,
so
they are.
we are short this particular creative person, so I can slot in.
Yeah.
And sometimes one extra person is the difference between the project going ahead and not.
Yep.
And
Yeah, absolutely.
And sometimes it can be as simple as just being there as like a financial kind of doing budgets and just there's obviously people in a room full of creatives who don't necessarily look at the bottom line. So
a lot of creatives struggle to.
Yeah, exactly. So
they do the creative part and forget about the business side.
Yeah, because you ultimately want them to be able to do it same time next year.
Yeah.
So they need to be able to cover costs.
Yeah, and if it's something that they can turn into a regular income stream as well, you don't want to have people that are massively creative just sort of drop off out of nowhere, which unfortunately what happens a lot of the time because for the whatever reason, the business side, luck, because that can play a part in it as well.
Very much so.
So, jack of all trades.
But if I could just hang my hat onto one particular trade, it would be writing.
Writing, okay. But now we're not talking writing as in novels or short stories or poetry.
Poetry, no, but the first two, yes.
Yes, okay.
I've published books. I've done short films as well.
So script and like film and stage and TV writing and stuff.
All of that.
Okay, okay. Because they're all very different disciplines, aren't they?
To an extent. At the same time, you want to have characters that the audience is interested in, and you want to see interesting things happen to them, and you want to see them work to get what they want.
Yeah.
So if it just falls in their lap, nobody's really that amazed by it.
If you don't have to work for it, it's kind of boring, right?
Sort of thing. So the medium can change, whether it's a play, whether it's a film, whether it's a live show.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you still need to have the same sort of structure each and every time as far as knowing who the characters are and what they want.
Yeah, and you always have beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah, yeah.
And what is it? The middle act can often be the darkest of the acts as well.
I've never really sort of subscribed to it's got to be the classic emotional arc and 3-act structure. And, I mean, that's really good to have as a fallback position.
I just think of the original Star Wars trilogy.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So, but at the same time, when I'm doing the first draft, I don't put any restrictions or try to channel it into a particular direction.
Oh, right.
It's just as it comes out, and you may only use 10% of it, but at the same time, until you write the first draft, you don't know that that's the 10% that you want.
Now, I'm trying to remember the terms. Oh, there we go. Are you a planner or a pantser?
Oh.
You knew exactly what I meant.
Am I a planner or am I a German tank or what?
Pantser.
Ah, right.
So fly by the seat of your pants.
Yeah, cool. I've got colleagues who do this.
Tank.
Yeah. I love them when there's like a 3-second delay. Yeah. I am a structured down to the ground. Like I'll write exactly a blueprint as far as where the story goes.
Yeah.
I may then never refer to it again, but if you get stuck, it's really nice to come back because that's your roadmap.
Yeah.
And so it's always nice to have that in your pocket. I've got friends who will just start writing and that's what works for them, but that just fills me with dread.
Oh, okay.
I used to edit manuscripts for people as well.
Oh, right.
And so they've written the Great Australian Novel or something like that. But they call me and say, look, I'm halfway through it. I've got 40,000 words on the page and I've written myself into a corner. I don't know what to do.
Oh,
So
editor, doctor type thing?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And oftentimes it means like you've got to jettison a whole bunch of it because you kind of went off track. But if you've got the plan to begin with, if I start questioning where's this going, what's happening, I can look back at it and say, yeah, that's the original direction I want to take. It may change, but if I'm just doing it and not really, I don't want to get so far into it that I suddenly realise, no, I've written the wrong story.
Okay. Because we've had a few writers in.
Okay.
We've been very fortunate. We've had Michael Boter.
Okay. Oh, yes.
Yep. Catherine Lee. Lauren Roach, our very own communications manager, Marino Begman. She does short stories. We've had a few, and everyone's approach is very different. Some just pants the whole thing.
Okay.
Some will like take to a whiteboard and structure everything out in its minute detail. I guess it really depends on the type of person you are, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So primarily as a writer,
Yeah.
but someone who's obviously done a lot of different bits and pieces along the way, let's go right back.
Okay.
All the way back.
Okay.
Oh, yes. So, you grew up. Was the household a particularly creative household? Or no?
The classic disciplines like piano and guitar and that sort of thing, but as far as the arts was concerned, I remember because I was lucky enough to get accepted into an acting college. That was kind of my first focus.
Wow.
When I was fresh out of school, because acting was like the prime dream then.
Yeah.
And my dad was kind of very much, well, you need to have a fallback position. What's your plan B?
Right, yeah.
And
have a career behind you. Yeah.
Well, a cursory glance of the Australian acting industry is like there's 98% unemployment at any given time.
I think it's not too much different in New Zealand.
Exactly. So he was, from a fatherly aspect as far as like, well, how are you going to put food on the table and that sort of thing.
Right, so pragmatic.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Okay.
But again, when you get accepted into, it was the Edith Cowan University, academy called WAPA.
WAAPA.
Yeah,
right?
Western Australian Academy of Performing Arts. Yeah.
Right.
Their most famous graduate is Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman?
That's the one.
Right. Yep.
And so to that extent, that gives you a lot more credibility purely because it gets you on the radar of when you're trying to get an agent, when you're trying to go to auditions, that sort of thing.
Yep.
So that was a good thing. At the same time, it's still 98% unemployment.
Yeah.
But that kind of assuaged Dad's fears a bit as far as, okay, well, he must be showing some sort of promise if there's that kind of offer on the table.
When did you sort of first get that acting bug?
I went to a demonstration school. So oftentimes, this is public school, and so it was like a teaching college, basically. So teachers would do a class to 25 kids, but you would have around the perimeter of the room, there would be all these student teachers sitting and learning about the practical applications of this is how you impart information into young children sort of thing.
Right.
And on top of that, there was also a bit of a push towards doing extracurricular stuff. So there were concerts, there were plays, there were just things. It was the 70s, so there was lots of emphasis on let's make sure the kids have got stuff to look forward to each term.
Right.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, early on there was this kind of the fun of performance.
Yeah.
So I got that fairly early on, and in high school did some plays and kind of thought,
oh, nice.
I really like the whole aspect of putting something together, performing it in front of an audience, and hopefully with other actors, and that wins over their approval.
Were you, having done that and then sort of moved into the performing arts school, did you sort of gravitate towards a certain acting style? Because there's Method and Stanislavski and all those.
Yeah. Well, they were, we were talking about this earlier, there's it's the Academy of Performing Arts, so apart from acting, they've also got ballet, they've also got Conservatorium of Music, they've got stage management, they've got event management as well.
Oh, right.
And the whole push from everybody, from each director of each department was to be adequate in performing arts. You need to understand each link of the chain and how they work together. So we did classes in dance, we did music, we did stage management as well.
Yeah.
So you got a real appreciation of how it all came together.
Right.
And so, when it came to the acting side of things, they showed you method and they showed the background and the different styles through the history of theatre. So you just got a really good understanding of, well, there's all these different approaches, And once you've got that, you kind of pick the ones that work best for you.
Right. And I guess the advantage of being taught the other disciplines is that you when you're done, you don't go out and go, I am exclusively a stage actor or I am exclusively a dancer. You can go, well, I can do a bit of dance, I can sing a bit, but I can also work behind the scenes. So you're, just going to make sure I get this right, you're essentially making yourself as employable in the industry in as wide a range of fields as possible.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right, okay, just want to make sure I got that right.
Oh.
I did acting for a number of years as well, and the thing I enjoyed about it the most is that, and I can't even say it without it sounding weird, but I enjoyed not having to be myself.
Oh, okay.
I could be another...
The escapism of...
There you go. So I was always drawn to method. I once did a play, Shadowlands.
Oh, yeah.
And I had a non-speaking role as the priest that read the final rites for the gentleman's wife who was passing away.
Okay.
And I actually went to a church and I talked with a priest and I went to a few sermons and did all of that sort of stuff and watched his everything, watched the entire process that he went through. And then when I was done, I went to the director and I said, this needs to be as authentic as possible. And I got extra time to be able to do the whole ritual that I needed to do. And I would have these lovely old ladies come up to me afterwards going, how long have you been into acting, Father? And it was like, I appreciate the thought. It's the other way around. I was just acting as a father. We go to the local church, and honestly, we thought you knew what you were doing. And I was like, well, then I've done my job. As a non-speaking role.
Well, acting's gain is theology's loss.
Exactly. How very kind.
Yeah.
I don't know if theology feels the same. No, they're probably celebrating it, going, it's not a theology. Anyway, so you're hitting high school, you're acting and loving it, and then you go to WAPA?
Yeah.
WAPA. And you graduate. Where do you sort of head off to from there? Because obviously you can go in as many different directions as you feel like it, really.
Oh, yeah. I was born and raised in Sydney.
Okay.
University was in Perth, so I was there for 3 years.
Right, yeah.
Came back to Sydney, scored an agent, and that's when you kind of get put forward to auditions for TV commercials, plays, movies, and predominantly television shows.
Right, okay.
So you go to things like Home and Away, and they'll need an actor for a couple of episodes or whatever. The challenge is there's not a lot of selection. So to that extent, you can do Home and Away, you can do a commercial, and you can be pretty much done for the year. Because once they've used you on a TV show...
Yeah.
They've used me a few times, but at the same time, they will wait 3 or 4 years so you don't get confused with your previous role. So unless you're getting sort of a major role in like Blue Healers or something like that, but that's shot in Melbourne, you're pretty much just working for about a week and then you're done.
For a year?
Pretty much.
Wow, okay.
So it's the nature of the industry. So Australia doesn't make... well, from my opinion, doesn't make a lot of television.
Okay.
And these days, the leaning is towards reality TV.
Unfortunately.
So Married at First Sight and all of that sort of thing. So that's not scripted, so they don't need actors.
Quality programming.
But
we digress.
It's ratings, so
it is.
Yeah.
It puts eyeballs on the TV.
So more reality TV, less roles for actors.
Yeah. And how heavy was the competition for you? Because you're in your 20s at this stage?
Yeah. So...
and what sort of stuff are you going up for as well?
Again, you kind of get cast as type fairly quickly. And it's just the way the industry works. So if I was pretty much going for... detectives, police officers, that sort of thing. Short back and sides, 6'2".
Right.
Yeah. And again, you kind of get pigeonholed, from my way of thinking, for the casting person who's got like 3,000 actors to choose from, if I put 6 of these guys every time I need a cop, if I put 6 of these people every time I need somebody who is homeless, then it makes my job easier.
Okay. Yeah,
So
of course.
It's not to say I can't play a homeless person. It's just I've got the look for when somebody's watching television. Yeah, I believe more firmly that he would be a detective rather than a homeless person.
Right.
So you get to that stage where you walk into a room and there's 12 to 20 guys who look pretty much just like you. When you're doing an audition.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you've learned the script, but again, they don't just offer it to you. You've got to do the audition.
Yeah.
They'll tape it. Oftentimes the director's not even in the room.
Yeah.
They've got a casting person who will record you, put it on tape, and then the tape gets sent to the director. And they will choose out of the 12 to 20, they'll send... The casting person, sends you the script ahead of time. You learn the lines.
Yeah.
And they'll basically read the lines of the other characters off camera. You'll do the performance, and then it's usually about 2 to 3 minutes long.
Okay.
Gets sent off to the director, and they'll either have a short list or just pick someone.
It's really that simple.
Pretty much.
Okay.
So, but again, your agent is the one who hears about it.
Yeah.
And so the casting people contact the agents. And they've got a fairly strong working knowledge of who's available anyway.
Yeah.
So it is just kind of waiting around for the next audition to come along, and there's nothing you can really do to kind of foster that method any quicker.
So what are you doing in between these gigs? Because, you can't be like, I've done 2 days work and a commercial, I'm set for the year. I don't imagine you are.
No, not at all.
No.
Commercials are wonderful. Actors will complain about doing commercials and how it's sort of bastardizing their art, but at the same time, it's really good money.
Yeah,
so
it is.
And that's when I spent some time in New York, about 3 months. This was just as a backpacker.
Oh, right, okay.
But I was
Going
really
on your
curious to know about the Broadway sector, the play. I was really interested in breaking into plays, but they're even harder to break into than TV in Australia.
Oh, wow.
Only because directors are exactly the same in the way that you've got your favourite hairdresser, your favourite...
Yeah.
Most directors will know immediately when they're looking at a play which particular actors they want, and it's people they've worked with before.
Yeah.
And that's understandable.
Yeah, because then they're a known entity.
Yeah.
You know what you're going to get with that particular actor.
Exactly.
Whereas if it's a new person for a bigger role, you're like, I haven't really worked with that person before. I'm unsure, uncertainty.
Yeah. So it is a little bit not closed, but at the same time, there's less in it for them to take a risk, because at the same time, they're doing a job and they want to be employed by the theatre company same time next year.
And also, I guess for them, they have a fiscal responsibility as well to make sure that play earns money.
Yeah, box office.
Yeah. Okay.
So getting back to your question, went to New York for about 3 months, and it was to kind of, are acting classes any different here?
Yep.
And the life of an actor over there in between work is you're doing tap class, you're doing singing class, you're doing acting classes. You're also working part-time jobs, usually cafes, whatever, the classic sort of stereotype.
Hospitality stuff, yeah.
But the whole thing is you need to keep your instrument, to use a cliche term. You've got to be on top of your game, because I guarantee you, most of the time I would only get 48 hours notice for an audition.
Is that all?
Just depending on, because the major parts get done sort of fairly... methodically.
Yeah.
The smaller parts, if you're only on there for 3 minutes out of a 30-minute episode, there's not a lot of time allocated to that.
Okay.
So it's kind of, when all the big chess pieces are put in place, then they come down to the smaller roles, and that all sort of happens in a mad flurry.
Yeah.
So here's your script. You've got 48 hours to learn it, and you basically need to be able to do it as convincingly as possible. Hence all the acting classes, all the singing classes, all the movement classes, because you never know when you're going to get an audition, and you need to be in your best particular form to be able to take advantage of something when it does come up.
Yeah, the adage of that actors, their body is their
Instrument.
Yeah. I haven't heard it called that in years. It's such a...
I'm showing my age.
Oh, well, no, it was what I had when I went to drama school. I remember my teacher saying, "Your body is your instrument," and I was like, "Well, mine's broken." You know, you need to go to the gym. No, I need to put down the pies. You're over in New York for
about 3 months.
3 months, and then come back to Australia.
Yeah.
When is it that you start picking up is it the pen, or you start hitting the keyboard? When do you sort of make that decision?
Well, that's the downtime with an actor. It's like you still need to earn money, so they're doing things like working for wine companies on the phones. They're doing telesales.
Right.
Because they've got good voices, they've got engaging personalities, other guys are driving cabs, and you've got your part-time job and you try to find something that's flexible, so if I can't work tomorrow because I've got an audition, they're cool with that.
Right.
So to that end, it's trying to pay the bills, but at the same time, for me, I was interested in trying to do something that was creative rather than driving cabs.
Yep.
So I worked for magazines in ad sales.
Like New Idea, Women's Day?
Mostly teens, so it was Girlfriend magazine, it was TV Hits magazine, Hot Metal magazine that you might know.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know Hot Metal.
Yeah. So,
unfortunately, also no Girlfriend as well. Don't you judge, Editor Rocky. No, I see that smile off your face.
Cool.
Yeah.
But because you're working in ad sales, you've also got a chance to do some editorial as well. So,
okay.
Yeah, so you've got access to the editor to say, look, if I can do a movie review or something like that, would you be interested? And again, when you're just starting out, I was happy to do it for nothing, purely because it was me learning a new craft sort of thing.
And is it also creating, is it also exercising that creative muscle?
Well, that's what I was looking for. Something rather than driving cabs, I'd like to try and find something that was not as creative, but something that involved creativity.
Yeah.
And from there, basically started doing freelance journalism. Writing for the street mags. And they've got a tremendous thirst for editorial purely because they don't pay a lot.
Right.
But at the same time, I didn't have any track record, so it was my chance to basically put together a CV and like a portfolio of articles.
Right. Yeah.
So I started doing that.
Okay. Moving from the street magazines and those sorts of things, how long did you stick at that? And did you realise, well, I'm actually not too bad at this, and then sort of branch off into other areas?
I actually had a plan in the fact that I was going to focus in the entertainment industry. So in the end, I did film reviews, theatre reviews, stand-up comedy reviews, but I would also interview actors, writers, producers and directors.
Oh, wow.
And so I got to interview some really good people.
Can you name drop any?
Yeah, sure. If we're talking about producers, there was Saul Zaentz, who was the producer for The English Patient.
Yes.
For
Ray
directors, Wes Craven.
Oh, yes!
Yes. Famous horror film.
Holy shit!
He was fascinating. And again, for me, it was basically to learn more about, because I knew I wanted to write, but if I can interview directors and producers as far as what are the elements that you look for in a script.
Wow.
That was kind of my free apprenticeship as far as learning about the industry.
And Wes Craven would have been an amazing resource of knowledge, because he wrote... Well, he wrote, what is it? Hills Have Eyes, Shocker.
Did Scream.
Scream. No, he didn't write Scream. Kevin Williamson did. But he did Nightmare on Elm Street. But then he did all of the really B-grade ones before that as well. Yeah. But yeah, he wrote and directed. Man, that would have been a hell of an experience. Rest in peace.
Yeah. He was great to talk to purely because at the time, the Romeo and Juliet done by Baz Luhrmann.
Oh yeah, they are a great film.
Yeah, but he was really angry because he said too much of my life is basically spent dealing with censors. Because getting my stuff approved and trying to get it just an M rating and not an R rating. And he said, I continually get the note from the censorship board that this moment is too intense. for an audience. And he said,
Okay.
well, I'm in the industry of making intense moments. I do horror films and thrillers.
Yeah.
And he said, at the same time, Romeo and Juliet is romanticising guns. This is the Baz Luhrmann one.
Yeah, very
and
much so.
I remember the guns that came out, and each of them had the family crest on it, and it just looked so cool. And it's like, that is just an absolute magnet for a 14-year-old boy. So to that extent, he said, it's really, really frustrating, but I'm trying to make intense moments, but they don't understand that they're actually watering down and diluting the end result of what I'm trying to go for. But it's just this dance that you do.
Yeah.
You make something, then you have to change it so that people who don't know anything about filmmaking will approve it.
Northland Artists Conversation is proud to support 116. 116 are located on Bank Street in Whangarei, and an amazing venue that you can actually hire. If you're looking to hold an event or looking to hire a venue for a special occasion, 116 on Bank Street are an absolutely fantastic place. You can simply contact them via email off their website or through Facebook as well. 116 have had such amazing events in the past as the Whangarei Fringe Festival, and they've also held the Plunge pop culture convention there as well. They also have local artists that also put performances on, as well as incoming artists that come into the region as well and want to be able to do things like have plays or perform music or any of those sorts of cool things. 116 are also home to the amazing Beagle radio station as well, which is a local initiative that is all set up with some very, very talented people that actually love what they do, and they do it all for free. So it's very, very cool. So 116 on Bank Street, proudly supported by the Northland Artists Conversation. So with having the opportunity to sit down and, I guess, under the auspices of interviewing these people and getting a chance to pick their brains, who are the other people that you've sort of been able to do the same with that have been sort of influential?
Well, I looked from an acting point of view as well.
Yeah.
And you kind of slowly work up the ranks. And the wonderful thing for me at the time, this was in the mid-90s, so internet wasn't really kind of that pervasive. So because I was based in Sydney, when actors would come from England or America or wherever to promote films, they'd turn up in Sydney and they'd maybe do Sydney, Melbourne and maybe Brisbane. Okay. But they wouldn't go any further west. And so the wonderful thing for me was I could basically be a eyes and ears on the ground for people in Adelaide and Perth and that sort of thing. So I could actually syndicate. So I could write stories and I could sell it to like 5 different newspapers around the country.
That's not a bad way to make a buck.
You can't do it now.
No.
Because if you sell it to the Sydney Morning Herald, they only took the rights for New South Wales. So so you could still sell the rights to the 5 other states.
Nowadays,
these days, they take world rights straight away.
Of course they bloody do.
So that put my interest up for all the publicists and that sort of thing. I got access to better and better actors as they came over. And again, I was learning about the process of how they get involved, how early they get involved, what they look for in a script. Really, really interesting stuff. So Robin Williams, Billy Crystal, Jack Nicholson, Denzel Washington, and basically you and me just sort of sitting down in a room for between 15 and 30 minutes just to chat about whatever their project is, but also to...
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's a list of incredibly impressive names.
That's kind of the highlights over 6 years. But
wow.
Yeah.
So you're doing this, and are you sort of using it as an opportunity to hone and refine your craft before moving into... Where do you move next?
That was then to... I got a book deal.
Okay,
Yeah, that was through HarperCollins. And
Celebrity gossip, my life as a...
No, thankfully.
Right. Okay.
I'd also, mentioned briefly, I'd also been covering comedy. So that's why, I targeted Robin Williams.
Robin Williams, Billy Crystal,
and a bunch of stand-up comedians who would come over for the Melbourne Comedy Festival and the Sydney Comedy Festival.
Of course.
Yeah, so like Stephen Wright, Alexi Sale, These are probably names people have never heard of because it's like 25 years ago.
Alexi Sale was in The Young Ones.
That's right.
And Stephen Wright was known as probably one of the original deadpan comedians.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, amazing talent.
Oh, he's a human one-liner.
Yeah, he is.
But fascinating people. But on the basis of that, I pitched HarperCollins the idea of doing a compendium of interviews with the top comedians from Australia and New Zealand.
Yeah, what an amazing idea.
Yeah, and I got John Clark. So
Fred Dagg.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So
it's funny. I watched, as an aside, Foot Rot Flats on the weekend.
Oh, okay. I've not seen that yet.
It's a great film.
Yeah.
John Clark is his absolute best. I digress, though. So you did the book deal, and because you're doing interviews for stand-up comedians or stand-up comedy shows, plays, and
movies as well.
Busy guy.
Again, it's just keeping across things, and so
you're getting comped for all of this as well.
Yeah. So you see,
right?
But at the same time, it's like, if you see a film, you kind of need to know that you've sold either a review or an interview for it ahead of time, because otherwise I'm losing 4 hours out of the day to go and see a movie and I'm not making any money.
Yeah. Okay.
So at the end of the day, you've still got bills to pay.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it kind of got me to the point where I felt confident enough about my writing that I could actually pitch ideas. And the book deal came out and did pretty well. And that was kind of... Each thing you do is like getting you on the radar of the next level up.
Oh, so it's a tier thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I used that to basically have meetings with people in radio and television, because I was interested in writing electronic rather than print, as well as print.
Yeah.
And that's when I started doing some sketch writing for comedy shows in Australia.
Anything we would have heard of?
There was The Fast Show. There was Backburner, done by the Australian comedian Peter Burner. Wrote some sketches for that. Good News Week, I had a very brief stint on doing an internship.
Okay.
And that was, again, you just kind of get thrown in feet first, and it's all grist for the mill.
So there's some sketch comedy shows that have been out that I loved growing up, In Living Colour being one of them.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing. A lot of the documentaries talk about how hard it is to write sketch comedy as opposed to, dramas or anything. Was that experience sort of the same for you? It
does kind of harden your muscles as far as when you're writing, because I didn't know how it worked, but what would happen is they'd set up, they had a studio and they'd build a set each particular day or wherever, and they say, okay, we've built a hairdresser's studio.
Right.
So all of the gags that come from you today need to be set in a hairdresser studio. And they'd give you advance notice.
Right.
And then tomorrow it's going to be a gym. So all the jokes. And so you're basically given this prism to look comedy through, to, okay, what can I find that's funny out of this? And you're given a set scenario. Okay. So it's the discipline of being able to find comedy, not from the idea of, well, I'm going to wait until an idea comes to me. It's kind of like, well, you've got to print, 5 minutes worth of filmable material by the end of the day.
Wow. That would be huge pressure.
Yeah. Well, there's a team of you in the room. So
okay.
They kind of realise that of all the sketches that the team writes, we'll probably use like 10 to 20% of them. But we need to have all of those as fallbacks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking of a TV show, Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip, which was written by... Oh my God, I've just forgotten his name. He was the writer of A Few Good Men.
Oh.
We're going to both have that moment, aren't we? We will forget him.
Okay.
Damn it. Rocky, can you just do a quick search, please, of the film A Few Good Men? Aaron Sorkin. Beach to it.
Yeah.
Modern day computer. And that was based on the life of SNL. And like the writer's room and the actors and all that sort of stuff. So it's really, really fascinating to actually hear something like that actually really, what it's like to really happen. Yeah. So you did sketch comedy.
Yeah.
And then are you still doing your film reviews and all that sort of stuff?
Okay. Yeah, you can squeeze those in. And from there, it was to basically start networking because I knew I eventually wanted to start putting my own stuff out there. And that was to find people just through workshops, just through conferences and that sort of thing, people who could be part of your team.
Because that seems like you'd be working like dawn till dusk and then into the wee hours of the night.
It's not that rigorous. Again, it kind of.
God.
I always say, look, it's script writing. It's not like you're digging ditches for a living. It's like
No.
yeah, but at the same time,
Exercising a different muscle, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but they're earning better money than I am. So
God.
and that's the harsh reality. It's like
Wow,
because
okay.
I moved from that to short films. I found a guy who was a really good director who liked
Yeah.
the scripts I was doing, and this was for at the time the biggest short film festival in Australia, which was Tropfest.
Okay.
Yeah, and so creativity when you're at that level, you really need to be able to basically have a team of professionals in various areas to count on. So
Right.
it's much more likely to happen if you've got a... And this is, because I teach filmmaking and writing workshops and that sort of thing, and it's just
Oh, wow.
always... give of your time. If it's that whole thing around Tropfest time, people
Yeah.
say, I need extras for this particular scene,
Yeah.
like it's on the beach. And so, and to basically help out, because at some stage you'll be able to call in a favour and have them help you.
Yeah.
So I did two short films that were about 5 to 7 minutes each.
Okay.
And they did quite well. So from there, again, it was just trying to learn more about that aspect of the industry.
Yeah.
And hopefully it gets me on the next tier as far as, well, we like what you do as a short film. Have you got any, thoughts on feature film?
Okay,
So,
right.
yeah, so I'm kind of working my way up the ladder, but there's no guarantees.
Yeah. Now, what stage are you at now, would you say?
Present day?
Present day.
Present day. I had the wonderful fortune to get one of my feature film scripts optioned. This was in 2018.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
That's amazing, because an option itself is a big thing.
Yeah. So producer I sent it to said, yes, I want to put it together.
Yeah.
This was kind of a little bit pre-COVID.
Yes.
And so at the same time, there's no guarantees. So he did his usual approach to various funding bodies and that sort of thing. And for whatever reason, it didn't really kind of motivate anybody tremendously.
Oh, wow, okay.
So, and that's the nature of the business. It can
Yeah.
fall over at any particular
Yeah.
time. And you just get up again and work on the next script.
And with movies, I think especially, it's not a overly quick process either.
No.
Films can be in development for decades for some of them.
Yeah, absolutely. But from what I'd learned, I'd basically done a small cast in a small town.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a huge budget, and it was character driven rather than no special effects, no time
Right,
travel,
yep.
no aliens or anything like that. So just to sort of keep the budget down.
Economy based.
Yeah, and again, it's what you need to get your first one done.
Yep.
They need to look at it and say, yeah, it's interesting, and it's not going to cost the world to get it done.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's kind of the space you occupy as a new writer.
Okay.
So so I did that, got optioned. After about 12 months, he came back and he said, look, the timing for this is just, it's not resonating with anybody.
Okay.
So, and he had the option to extend it, but that's pretty much when COVID started darkening the world.
Right. Okay, so it's around the sort of start of 2020 then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But you do, now, the reason we're doing your podcast, so you, in sort of a timely manner,
Yes.
is because you currently have something absolutely amazing.
Okay.
And for us, as a podcast, I think it's unbelievably cool to have someone that's worked on something that's going to be a world premiere in Whangarei.
it is.
Would you like to talk a little bit about that,
Sure,
please? Because
sure.
it is amazing.
Well, this actually came about from the first lockdown where everybody had to
big one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Stay in house for 4, 5, I can't remember. It felt like eternity.
Yeah, 2-3 years.
Yeah. And so I used that as the premise of, okay, if you're not allowed to leave, if you've got the same 4 walls, what kind of environment does that give you? And I just thought, okay, yeah, you've got to do a play. And
Right.
so it's
Yep.
a cast who are sort of in the one house, and it's over the course of just one evening, that sort of thing.
Okay.
And I've got this file of ideas that come to me that aren't quite fleshed out, but I like them. And so I
Yep.
went through all of that and started working on a script. Long story short, it's called the Illiterate Book Club.
Excellent. Great title.
Again, I was looking for just that instant contradiction. So
A very oxymoron.
yeah. So to that extent, something which will stick in a person's mind.
Yeah.
So you want them to be able to remember the title and hopefully like the characters and the journey they go on.
What is the actual premise of the play?
It's playing with the word illiterate, not that I should really look at it in that way, but they call themselves illiterate because they can't read. They can't read because they don't physically have time to.
Oh, okay.
So to that extent, their lives are such that they're all so busy that nobody can sit down with a book because there's too many other demands.
Yeah.
So in that sense of the word, I can't read, so we're the Illiterate Book Club. So what they do is they form a book club anyway.
Okay.
And find different ways to basically absorb the stories of their favourite books.
What a great idea.
So obviously, I'm putting you on the spot now,
Sure.
rapid fire.
Go for gold.
If you couldn't read a book, what's another way that you could absorb the story?
Listen to a book.
Audiobook, cool.
Yep.
Rocky?
Editor Rocky. We're going to throw one over to Rocky. Rocky.
We're going to break the fourth wall.
Here we go. Fourth wall broken, Rocky. And you can't choose audiobook because I did that. If you were to have to learn about a new book, what would it be? Just yell it out.
By talking.
Talking? Yeah, that works. Watching it would be another one.
Yeah. Film.
As well.
Or, yep.
Yeah.
So-
Plays.
So each of them has found a way to, where they don't have time to sit down and read, they've found another way to get the story either through
Right.
an audiobook or something like that.
Yeah.
And there's about half a dozen different approaches. And this is how they present their book reviews each meeting.
So that's the Illiterate Book Club, and
Yep.
that's being held at the
Octagon Theatre.
Octagon Theatre. Now, by the time this podcast comes out, the play will hopefully be in full swing.
Okay.
Where can people get tickets?
At the website for Octagon Theatre,
Yes.
which is octagontheatre.nz, I think.
Okay, yep, sounds about right.
Cool. It's not hard to find.
No. Is there any other way, like through Event Finder or Eventbrite or anything like that?
They've got their own website. That's through Humanitix. They're selling tickets, and
Cool.
also Craniums in Town.
Now, Craniums are located at the Town Basin,
That's the
across the way from Rayburn House, also where they're doing the annoying construction
The car park.
of the car park. Yes. Okay. That's amazing. Wow. And so cool that you've taken time.
It's scary, though. It's like my first play.
Why?
So-
Why is it so scary?
'Cause-
It's not like a national audience.
True, but at the same time, I'm sitting in the audience when it's happening. And it's kind of, why didn't they laugh at that? It took me 3 weeks to come up with that joke. It's beautifully sculpted, and it just lay there.
Is that where you sit there going, night one, didn't laugh at joke about dog, rewrite joke feverishly?
So that's the thing. You can't do rewrites because they've already learned the lines.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, and again, but I've been in a play at Octagon, used my acting skills. This was
Yeah.
back in 2017. I was in Calendar Girls.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
I know
So
the play, yes.
Played the husband.
Yep.
And we did 12 performances, and there would be lines that you guarantee you'd get a laugh on.
Yeah.
And sometimes there was one evening I got a huge laugh on a line. It was basically just information.
An exposition line.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the audience just cracked up, and it was just, well, okay.
Yep.
They've really enjoyed wine with dinner, and
Yep.
they...
Let's let the laugh play out.
Exactly. I'll
Yep.
take it. Look, I'm not going to say... I'm not going to admonish them.
You don't sit there going, stop laughing.
Yes.
You laugh at the next line.
So yeah, every night's different.
Yeah, and as you know, I wish I had the ability to write. So I think it's going to be an interesting perspective from having been on stage to suddenly being the person there, sitting with people, almost biting your nails, going, "Please get everything."
Well, I tell people that, if you say you can't write, it's a skill like anything else. If you can learn to drive a car, if you can learn to pick up another language, it's just devoting the hours and that whole thing of just slowly coming to realizations about, so...
And that's interesting because I think that's been the one through line that every writer has said
Okay.
on the podcast the whole way through, is that it's a discipline and it's exercising a muscle, and you need to continue to exercise it. It's like playing guitar.
Yeah.
Practice makes perfect, and once you get to a good standard, you just need to maintain.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's amazing. Wow. Geoff Bartlett, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I really do appreciate it. I wish you all the success for the Illiterate Book Club, which is a great title, by the way.
Thank you, sir.
And, when you've got more stuff coming out, we'd love to have you back on.
Mate, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
Super cool. Thank you so much.
Cool.
There you go, everyone. A wonderful conversation with Geoff Bartlett. He's such a cool guy. Yes, we had some time constraints. He needed to get back to the, back to the theatre and go through the last fine-tuning stages before the play comes out, which will be out now. The one thing I got from Geoff's podcast the most is the struggles of actually being trying to become established as a working actor, because that was something that I'd gone through to a very loose degree myself, and then how he sort of made that transition to become a writer. And at the end, he talks about how anyone can be a writer. It's just a muscle that you exercise, and the more you exercise it, the better you get over time. Our other guests that we've had on the podcast that have been writers have all pretty much said the same thing, and it's funny because it's absolutely true. If you do not feel like you're a naturally creative person, just pick something that you enjoy and start. Do it and keep doing it and keep being consistent, because you do get better. It's like everything. We're not all the greatest drivers when we learn how to start driving cars. Some of us aren't the greatest drivers after decades, but some of us do get a lot better, and I feel that's a pretty apt statement. So there we go. So I'm going to flick to my camera. It was like Geoff kind of came in before we sat down to do the podcast. We were very, very quick, sort of talking beforehand. He had just a couple of questions he wanted me to answer for him. And once we sort of had that, he was like, yeah, cool, I'm ready to go. I was like, wow, okay. You don't want to ask any more questions? Nope, I'm fine. Feels totally cool. Let's just get in and get started. I was like, wow. Nice, refreshing, very, very cool. He just wasn't nervous or anything. He just came in, smashed it out, was a breeze, and shared some really cool jokes. And what is it? Was it with the Russian tank joke? That gave me the delayed laugh. Yeah. Look, I think we can all be honest. There are some podcasts where things go over my head, and then it takes a little while for me to click. Such is life. But that's okay. So I'll tell you what, where can you find out more about the podcasts and what we do, and the different things that we have coming out? I'm going to go through them right now. So on visuals, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, all at Northland Artists Conversation. For audio, if you're the person that likes to just listen to a podcast, or listen to a podcast while you're driving or doing other stuff, awesome. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. And that's all Northland Artists Conversation. If you are an artist, or you know someone that's an artist and you think they would be amazing on the show, we would love to hear from you. And you contact us by emailing hello@northlandartistsconversation.co.nz. All super simple. It's all based around Northland Artists Conversation. We've made it easy for you guys to get in touch with us. Just come say hi. And if you want to be a little bit more, giving of your time, your contribution. We also have a Patreon page as well, where you, the audience, can go and sign up and donate and keep this podcast moving forward, because we certainly do need everyone's help. There's two ways that you can go there. You can go to Patreon and Google, that's Patreon, top right hand corner, and you can search Northland Artists Conversation, create an account, and then sign up that way. The other way you can do it is go to www.patreon.com patreon.com/Northland Artists Conversation. We've got 2 tiers there. The first tier is $5 a month. It's nothing, it's peanuts. And we've called that a cup of coffee because that's really what it is. I mean, I know inflation's gone up and coffee's a bit more, but $5 seems pretty reasonable. Second tier is $20 a month, and that's called Coffee Addict. What that gives you is early knowledge as to who's coming on the show, and if you want us or want me to ask the guests any questions, you just get in touch with us that way. You also get a shout out as well. So I'm going to shout out to our Patreon supporters at the moment. I'm going to give a shout out to Lauren Roach, our amazing OG patron. Thank you so much. Michael Boter, who continues to be amazing, and I'm hoping to get him back on the podcast because he's got some cool stuff coming out. And the effervescent and ever so lovely Maggie Coco, who I think is still touring at the moment. So Maggie, if you're watching or listening, keep it up. You're doing amazing. I'm going to switch back to my wide camera now. So as I said at the start, it's been nearly a year. Nearly a year that we've been doing this podcast. I think there's only been 2 instances where we haven't been able to put something out. First one was the week of Alan Palmer, which unfortunately we had a lot of technical issues. Second week was when we were all knee-deep or neck-deep in Cyclone Gabriel, and pretty much everyone from the team was out helping friends and family who had been hit and ravaged quite hard by Cyclone Gabriel. So other than that, it's been a really amazing journey, and I work with a bunch of hugely talented people. I want to thank communications manager Marino. I want to thank editor Rocky, who is currently behind the computers, making sure this looks and sounds amazing. And I want to thank my producer in all of this, Andrew McKenzie. Thank you so much. Shout out to Kat Tasker as well, who helped in the early stages with all the social media. Thank you guys all so very much. You've all been amazing. Really love what you guys do, and I hope we can continue this and continue to grow and get more and more amazing guests. On that high note, I'm going to sign off. My name is Mark Kelly. I am your host. Thank you so much for watching the Northland Artists Conversation, and we will see you guys real soon.